Hello, and welcome to another episode of Safety Unfiltered. This podcast is brought to you by VelocityView, creators of the Safety Assist mobile application. We provide tools to help companies improve worksite safety and regulatory compliance. I'm your host, Mike Matthews. I'm the Digital Marketing Director for VelocityView, and today my guest, again, is Pat Walsh. He has been in the construction industry for nearly 4 decades and has been a superintendent, project manager, site safety manager, and corporate safety director. In this episode, we're going to be speaking directly about EM 385-1-1 and how it can impact your business and your workers when working on government projects. I wanted to get an understanding from you of exactly why EM 385-1-1 is important, what could happen if organizations don't follow that regulation to the letter, and how can Safety Assist Mobile assist with following and keeping in line with those regulations.
EM 385-1-1 is the application for construction work on all Corps of Engineer managed projects. It's mandatory, it's well written, but it must be followed to the letter. Contractors who don't follow these rules or don't know what they are or have a plan in place to follow the rules always have difficulty and frequently get stopped by the Corps inspectors and have to jump through hoops to make things work for themselves.
You're talking about contractors or just people that are working within the military?
These are construction contractors that work on military bases where the Corps of Engineer is the construction management.
Okay.
It does apply to military construction personnel as well. And there are some jobs that are actually performed by military members of the Army Corps of Engineers. But the world that I work in, we are civilian contractors, but we work on jobs that are managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
And what kind of effect if they get inspected by the Corps of Engineers and they find themselves lacking, not following to the letter EM 35-1-1, what are some of the impacts that could happen to them for not following that regulation?
The Corps of Engineers doesn't levy fines the way OSHA does. Instead, what they do is they simply put a stop work order on the contractor until he comes into compliance with these regulations. So the Corps regulations are published as standards with the project specifications. They become part of the contract documents that the contractor must comply with. And if any of those provisions in Corps of Engineers standards or contracts are not being attended to correctly, the Corps inspectors will stop the contractor from work, but the clock for contract completion keeps going. So there's a time penalty rather than a monetary penalty. Typically, a Corps of Engineer project is not viewed by anybody in the civilian world. Most of the time, the jobs that I've been involved in that were managed by the Corps of Engineers, they were either on a military base or they were a public works project, like a big drainage project or some other large public works enterprise project that the Corps of Engineers managed for the municipality or the city or the state or some big organization like that. An example of that would be the levee projects over on the Mississippi River and some dams, the flood control dams around the country, stormwater management projects that were built out in Arizona and New Mexico and places like that.
Okay. How do you foresee Safety Assist Mobile helping a contractor that's doing a job for the Corps of Engineers? What would be a use case that you could think of where if they didn't have any kind of digital mobile application, they're doing everything paper-based, what would you suggest, how would you advise them?
The EM 385-1 is fairly well written, and it's been updated periodically over the years, and it's fairly well coordinated from one section to another. Having said that, it's still difficult to read. And I know that when I've gone through this written publication, it's taken a lot of concentration in order to get through the specified requirements and figure them out and then put them into a plan of action. So the digital product simplifies that process by providing an easier to read and easier to access list of all these specifications without having to dig through the paper product itself.
What's your method of advising them to, instead of doing it the old way, doing it the way that makes more sense and is more efficient and user friendly?
Well, I think the adage that applies here is that knowledge is power. If you know what the rules are, and you know that those rules are mandatory, and you know that the Corps inspector is going to shut you down if you don't follow each and every rule to the letter, if you know all that ahead of time, then you're better prepared to do what is necessary. The Corps inspector doesn't have to shut you down. He just lets you continue to work. So understanding what these rules are, being able to access them quickly and efficiently, and being able to scan through a lot of regulations in a very short period of time on a mobile device, that's definitely a value-added proposition.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Thank you again for listening to Safety Unfiltered. In our coming episodes, we are going to be discussing how inflation in 2022 has impacted the construction industry, safety culture, as well as the importance of data management within that culture. Please do like and subscribe on all of our social media channels. And if you have any suggestions on future topics, please let us know. If you would like a free demo of Safety Assist Mobile, please visit us at www.velocityview.com. And as always, be safe.